We'd gone upstairs because it was so cold. They didn't have any heater downstairs. The boat wasn't ready to go. So everybody that was downstairs went up to their rooms, and then they sent lanterns in with us, or electric things or something, whatever it was, and we heated our rooms. So we just sat there, and we were the brides and grooms, and they'd go to each other's rooms and chatter for a while, then come back. But we just so cold that we just decided we'd go to bed anyway. We turned out our little lantern, and the first thing we knew, this awful wham, bang. And we got out of bed so quick, you never saw anything like it. And everybody had their heads out the doors then. And the sailors come around, they said, never mind, we just hit a iceberg. And they said, just harmless, just don't worry. Everything will be all right. And we said, well, we want to go down and see it. We want to get up and see it. Wherever it is, we want to see it. And no sure when you're that young, you want to see it anywhere, whether you were cold or hot or what. So we put on our clothes and away we went up there, and were we afraid then. It was so cold, and the place was so awful. The boat was already tipping, and the iceberg was just shattered in front of us. So we thought, well, let's get out of they say, oh, it's going to be fixed, it's going to be all right, don't worry. And the captain would come around and tell us, but he said, I think we'll call for the boats, and you people go up there and get in the boats and try to pacify us. We went down in the basement, and there they were up to their knees shoveling, trying to get the water out. The poor sailors, they were just, well, they said there's the biggest hole here. This, no use of doing this, might as well let it in now. Well, anyway, we went up. That's how we looked all through the place and saw how bad it was. And then we went up there. And we stayed until they finally decided that we'd go, trying to make us get in the boat. Then they didn't know how to lower them. First they'd get down. Wanted to go. We said, well, we'd go when the men said they could go, because you had to have men to row. So they came to us finally. Well, we didn't want to do it if men weren't allowed. We thought, well, no, we'd rather stay together down there. But they begged and pleaded with us because they said, if you lower one boat, they'll all get in. The others, they'll know better. So we just set an example. We did. Wasn't that fortunate? So we rolled down, but I tell you, it was hard on our husbands. But we got down. Of course, it was nothing but ice. We could hardly move. And cold. And I just had that little that coat on that I have there. We weren't dressed for winter. And we bailed with our men's hats. So we'd stayed there until we nearly froze to death, too. Finally, they lowered us, too. We got down and tipped, and when we'd yell and scream, we get down, and then nobody knew where the thing was, and couldn't. So we took everything. Finally, we found it. We women we were wet up to here anyway, so we just held our hands all around and tried to catch that thing that we put in there to block out the ocean. We found it too. Then we started moving away. We were rolling away, and they'd keep saying, don't come back, stay around. We'll have a pilot man in a boat, show you where to keep yourself. So we did what they did, and the men were rowing. Oh, it was so we can imagine the ocean. And then the icicles, the ice, it was just like going through, I don't know what, just a chopped ice up to your neck. So, but they struggled and struggled and struggled. Oh, it took us a long time to get away from there. We couldn't get out of the ice. Then when it was really tipped up, the orchestra was right up there. The orchestra kept going up and up and up. They were right up there, and they were playing "Nearer My God to Thee" all the time. We knew it. We thought, well, they don't need to give themselves up for us because we know we'll be the first ones in there. But pretty slowly, well, it was hours, when I looked around and I said, I see a light over there. And they said, oh, no, you don't. I said, I do. And they said, that's a star. I said, I don't believe it. I've been watching it a long time before I mentioned it. So 2 or 3 people, we got the man looking too. Sure enough, that's what the Carpathia was. And so we started rowing for that then. Well, that was, of course, 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours after the other sight, because we were rowing all the time. The men were rowing, and I was afraid they'd all have heart attacks. Just think how long they've been in that icy water, sitting in water up to their knees. And the men, of course, they were warm enough, they said, because they were working so hard. And there was one man, he was a great big fellow, and he had his coat on and he had his hat on. He was sitting in the back of the boat and just watching what they do, and he'd yell at them once in a while. And we finally asked him not to yell, and they were trying to do all right. And he was some German. We said, oh, goodness gracious, don't get him mad, because he'd probably shoot us all. And he did aim his revolver at us all the time. Scared us to death. But he calmed down when we really saw the boat. But then when we got there, well, of course, to the Carpathia, they just lowered a big basket. And they threw me in that basket. I was so much smaller than some of these other people with all their fur coats on. And I was about as big as a minute. And I said, well, don't put anybody on top of me. I had that once before when I got in. So they took us on, and all the people, of course, on board were all up and dressed and everything, because it took them a long time to row to us. That's how far we could see them. And they were firing at us, too. So we all sat there, the brides and grooms. We sat there right on the floor, and they went, everybody that would get downstairs to get some breakfast went. They finally brought us up some. We told them not to. We wouldn't eat. We weren't hungry anyway, we said. So just let us stay here, and we don't want anything. We were so afraid somebody would take our place. And then where would we be? We'd be scattered, you know. But here we were, right square in the middle, just as if that was the downstairs way there. And then the other rooms were the people's rooms. We never moved for pretty near 2 days, I think. A lot of people wanted to go on their cruise. And then a lot of people said they wouldn't think of going. I felt so sorry for all of us. So many of them lost their husbands, you know, and their children. A lot of children that were running around. But the people took them in their rooms with them and tried to play with the children. And the children didn't know what it was all about anyway. But the women that were saved, it was very sad. It was awful. So there we sat for 2 days, for near a day and a half, deciding what to do. The captain didn't know what to do. He said they hired this boat to take a cruise. But he said, I think we should go to New York. And but it's up to them. I've got to do what they say. Finally, they all decided to go. We all said, well, if you go back to New York, you better telephone ahead or something and tell them we're going to be there for life. We wouldn't get into another boat for anything. And so they got to laughing about that.